Welcome to Dr. Dan On, presented by the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. I am Rob Girth. I'm the Director of Digital Media here at the Foundation. And today's show is Dr. Dan on what does change really mean and what do we want to change. Dan is really looking to make this a conversation, and the best way to make it a conversation involves a couple of technical details, and I'm going to turn that over to our operator today, whose name is Christy, for that information. Go ahead, Christy.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, at the start of the presentation, all lines will be in a listen-only mode. You may press 6-6 to unmute your line and 6-3 to mute. If at any time during the conference you need to reach an operator, please press the *0. If you would like to ask a question or comment during the presentation, please use the chat feature, which is located on the lower left corner of your screen. Web participants may also dial into today's webinar by dialing 800-931-1309. As a reminder, this call is being recorded Wednesday, January the 9th, 2013. I would now like to turn the conference back over to Mr. Rob Girth. Please go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Christy. And I'll just say that again because it's really important, I think, and it really makes for, I think, a much cooler event if we have some people on the phone with some comments or questions. So the phone number, should you want to dial in, is in the chat area there. So if you look at your chat, I sent out a message earlier. 800, I'll say it again, 800-931-1309. I'll repeat that again as we go on. If you're too shy and you don't want to do that, feel free to put a question or a comment in the chat section. And we've got a couple polls. We have one poll that's on your screen right now. If you take a minute to give us a brief answer to that, that'll also help with the conversation. And with all that said, way too much, I will turn this over now to Dr. Dan Gottlieb. Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks, Rob, and welcome everybody. It's nice to be with you again. I hope your holidays were good, and boy, if you want to call in, I'd love to hear how holidays went for you. As I posted, I'll tell you how holidays went for me. I posted on the View from Here discussion. I left home to go on an errand Sunday night, the night before New Year's. I left home to go on an errand, one I didn't particularly want to go on. And, I was kind of grousing about, woe is me, I'm tired and I got to schlep out and I don't want to. And I get a call about a half hour later from somebody who was in the house who told me that a tree fell in the garage, a massive tree fell in the garage and almost took it to the ground. And if my van had been in there, it would have either been crushed or I certainly never would have been able to get it out. So I got lucky there. Of course, the garage thing. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but, it's stuff. It's bricks and mortar. It's not life. So now I am officially done with 2012. So I want to hear from you about what change means and why you really came to this discussion today, what you're looking for today. Now, we've got Sarmi from India saying that she wants health for all to be ensured, and that's the definition of the World Health Organization. And she's saying, according to them, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not the absence of disease. So she goes on to say, let me see if I can finish reading. If change implies that all steps can be taken to ensure health of mankind. So I guess my question is to Sarmi, to all of us, if that's the change you wish for, then what are we going to do about that to make that happen? And do you get frustrated when you realize that you can't change the world? It's like, how do we, if the change we want to do is to make the world a better place or to make people around us respond better, what is it that we can do to make that happen? And that's a kind of change. Whoever wrote the change they want is acceptance, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what that means, acceptance. Does it mean your acceptance of yourself or being accepted by others? So let's hear from you, to those who are listening in. I know Sarmi is having trouble getting connected. And Rob, will she be able to hear this?
Yes, she can hear. It's just she can't call in because she is out of the country. So
right.
The phone line is only for is not for international calls, I'm afraid.
Okay. So I know some of the people who are joining us, and I also know some of them are not shy, so please feel free to call in. Lois said that change means acceptance of herself and the situations in her life. Now, I remember, and I think that's a critical issue here. Now, I sit in my office every day and I watch people beat themselves up. And that critical judge says, you need to do this and then you'll be okay. Or you did that wrong, you screwed up. And somehow, that if you beat yourself up long enough and hard enough, then you'll be okay. You'll be accepted. And of course, that doesn't work. But all of that is about our rejection of ourselves. And I felt that, to a certain extent, much of my life telling myself, if I was this, then I'd be okay. But certainly after my accident, there was no way I was going to be okay. I might have mentioned here that going down the boardwalk one summer day in Atlantic City, where I hail from, has to be 2-3 years after the accident. I looked over in a window, and the sun was reflecting on it. And I looked at the window, and I said, oh, to myself. I saw the reflection. I said, oh, look at that crippled guy. And then I realized it was me. It's like I couldn't accept not just what happened to me, but who I was as a person, that my personhood wasn't fully realized, that I had to do something first. So self-acceptance is a really big issue, and it's more of a problem than many people are aware. So what do you do that? What do you do with that? And what does that mean? You know, self-acceptance is not self-indulgence, and God knows it's not self-pity. It's kind of acceptance for who we are, for our paralysis, for our resentments as a caregiver, for our pain, for our neurosis or joys or hostilities. It's not that we don't want to be better people, but these are the people we are. These are the people, this is who I am. And kind of accept who you are first. That's a fundamental change. It's a critical change. That all other change flows from that. That when we can feel kindness for ourselves, then everything else is just detail. Because then, if we want to lose weight, we do it as an act of love for our bodies, not deprivation, to get rid of the fat. We do it to care for our bodies, to nurture our bodies. If we want more love in our lives, and we can love ourselves or have compassion for ourselves, then our hearts are more likely to be open. And we're able to feel kindness for someone else. It's a big deal. So Lois, acceptance of yourself and the situations in your life. And of course, we all know, as far as the situations in our lives, what's become known as the AA prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change what I can. And knowing the difference really is an act of wisdom. Sometimes accepting your life as it is a way of honoring your own anxiety, that you're afraid to change it. And sometimes accepting your life as it is kind of accepting the reality of your life. One definition of stress is stress happens when the moment we're in, when we want the moment we're in to be different, which of course is impossible. But, the classic example is when we're stuck in a traffic jam, we have to get somewhere. We start feeling stressed because we want that moment to be very different. So, okay, I blathered on for enough time that if I go on too much longer, my blood pressure will drop. So let me read here. Charmy says, communication, talk. Disclosure, open yourself up. Share your problem. Let others come forward to help you. Freeing from mental agony, internal doubts, deep-seated ill thoughts that might bring some change, I feel. So if I read this correctly, Charmy, you're talking about the power of vulnerability. The power of vulnerability. How once we have the courage to be vulnerable, we're in a more powerful position. We can be more open, and we can be teachers. We can be teachers. It's another question I had is, do you feel we can or should be teachers to the larger world? Ida, I've accepted the ostracism from general society. I've accepted the ignorance of attitude. You don't belong because you're different. It's only taken 15 years. And I am now a successful counselor to my clients who pay no attention to my disability. Well, I would love to see you call in, Ida, because I'm not quite clear about accepting the ostracism that comes from society. I don't know if anyone else has, has experienced that. I mean, I've experienced a great deal of inaccessibility and frustration. I'd like to hear about the ostracism. I want to comment about Sharmi's comment about vulnerability. I was with someone today, a patient, and we were talking about anger, healthy anger, and where it goes awry. And I wrote an article that she was familiar with that came out of anger, and how I wrote it because I wanted to hurt someone who, in my opinion, said something stupid publicly. So I wrote this letter, and it was inappropriate. And I told her the regret I felt about anger that went awry. And her response was, she began to cry. And when I asked her what she was feeling, she said, "I just feel so grateful for you." So what was it about that story about anger and inappropriate use of anger that made her say that? And it's just what Sharmi said. I was vulnerable. I was open. I was human. I was, I make jokes that, once you pee in your pants a few times, everything else is relatively minor. The problem is everybody pees in their pants, if not literally, certainly metaphorically. And here's an example of how I peed in my pants, and I told her about it, and look what happened. Okay. All right, guys. Eva, people with disabilities find it even more difficult to accept ourselves as we are because of how society sees us. Eva, I think you're right. But remember, we're part of society. So we grew up in that society. I'm not proud of this, but I remember taking my kids to the zoo the summer before my accident. And my girls were 3 and 4 years old. My wife had just had surgery on her leg and had difficulty walking. And I parked in a handicapped spot before my accident. So we grew up in that society. So our bias against ourselves is not just how they see us, it's how we see us too. We buy that, or we bought it, and now we're on the other side of that. I think it might be more difficult to accept ourselves. I don't know. Now, Eva, I want to challenge that, because I see people in my office every day, like I said, and they don't accept themselves. And they've got no external society telling them they're not good enough. And they work really, really hard to accept themselves. So it might be a bit more difficult for us. But, it's our responsibility to accept us for who we are. it's our responsibility to begin to embrace the people we are. I think once we do that, once we reconnect with our own humanity, not that we're all good all the time, but when we can reconnect with our own humanity, knowing that disability is not the story, it's a part of the story. And when we can reconnect with that, we become teachers automatically. We show everyone who we come in contact that being disabled doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're not a complete human being. It doesn't mean you're miserable. It means you're human and disabled. It's both. And I think we teach valuable lessons. I was on a subway. I'm kind of amazed here how long I can blather on if nobody's engaging with me. It's a little embarrassing here. But anyway.
I was very impressed, actually. I was just thinking, wow, he can really, I wasn't calling it blather, but you really have a lot to say. That's what I was thinking.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, part of the reason why I want people to call in is because I'm just insecure enough. You know, we're talking to an invisible audience. Doesn't do anything for my insecurity here. Anyway, but I'll be okay. The insecurity will go, and it'll come, and it'll go. It's been my MO for 60 years. Anyway, so I get on the bus in, where was I? Denver. And a group of young people come on, all carrying Bibles, and studying to be missionaries. And a young man comes up to me, and he says, touches my shoulder, and he says, may I pray for you? He says, God wants you healed. And I asked him his name, I forget what it was. And I said, what makes you think that I'm not already healed? Is it because my body doesn't work like yours? What does healing really mean? I said, I'm a happy man. I enjoy my life. I enjoy being alive. What do I need to be healed from? And, you know, he kind of stood back and he was confused and he didn't know what to say. And whenever I encounter someone, I like to be a teacher in that way, especially one who's going to encounter others for a living. And I also like when people leave a conversation with me confused. That's only half a joke. I like it because one of my first teachers, mentors, can I say the S word here? Am I allowed for these grown-ups?
Yes, you may.
Oh, one of my first teachers, he was a farm boy. He was a family therapy professor. And he said, confusion, he said, is like fertilizer. He said, it feels like shit, but nothing grows without it. So whenever I see confusion, I see a door opening, you know, to a new kind of thinking. Okay, let's see what Charmy. Charmy, you're saving me here. Control of anger. Oh my God, since I am leading an independent life as a, wait a minute, these, Since I'm leading an independent life as a spinal cord injured individual, I have lost my capability to keep my anger under control in frustrating, disappointing, helpless situations. Almost the same as my hypothalamus temperature regulating system has gone crazy following my spinal cord injury. That's interesting. You know, we quads often have difficulty regulating temperature because the injury affects that level of the cord that regulates our temperature. So we are kind of reptilian. We're like snakes on wheels, I guess, which is a weird image. Anyway, but the emotions can also become dysregulated. But I don't think that's what Shormy means. I don't think she's talking about something physiologic. Of course, she says healing means heal my soul. Please help me laugh, love, live too, like all others around me. That's painful to read, Shormy. It's your pain is visible, and I'm so grateful for your openness and honesty. What needs to be healed, really? When you say heal your soul is broken somehow? Perhaps it's not. Perhaps that part of you that has been there your whole life, that part of you that you were born with, you're a physician, you know the research on, or you might know the research on children and compassion, that toddlers show signs of compassion, that infants live in the moment, that children under 5, and if we're lucky beyond, experience awe and love life and love freely and laugh often. That's in there, Shormy. That's still in there. That didn't go away. It went underground. It's in there. And I'm working on a book that's going to address just this. It's called The Wisdom We're Born With. It's in there, my dear friend. So your soul is intact. You're just not holding it. You're not feeling it right now. It's not expressing itself. As long as this started off medical, let me continue. I was talking to a geneticist last week, and he said that genes often don't express themselves until later in life. And some genes, of course, never express themselves, and that can be good and that can be bad. So I said, what stops them from expressing themselves? And he talked about a protein. And then he said, but there's something that enables them to express themselves, and it's called lactose. It's the same material that's in mother's milk, interestingly enough. So lactose engages with the protein, I hope you're with me so far, and releases it so that the gene can express itself. That's what we're talking about here, all of us today. It's the protein on that gene. It's the inhibitor that says, don't express this. You can't express it. It goes underground. But it's in there, like I said to Sharman. It's in there. And what we need is lactose. And that lactose can come from outside, an expression of love, of kindness, being touched, being held, being cared for. And that lactose can come from inside, a kind of kindness we feel for ourselves, a kind of love that we can even feel for ourselves, loving this body that's been so battered and still carries forth. So we just need to find a way to express that gene of love and acceptance, that gene that doesn't obsess about what other people think of them, weighs that into their lives, but doesn't let that control their lives. A gene that gives more love than it demands. Lactose. Really interesting stuff, I think. Hey, Rob?
Yes,
You there,
sir?
Rob?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, oh, great. Now, you fell asleep.
No, I just stayed on mute so I wouldn't interrupt by mistake.
Oh, I thought you weren't there. I'm thinking, oh, God, I'm going to have to increase my medication now.
Do you want to look?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Nobody's still calling in, but I'm not going to take it personally, but I will pout when we're done. Laurie, my friend Laurie, absolutely agree on the temp. Also my emotions, and I hate being so emotional. Emotions daily up and down. I really can't see a way to accept this new life. Couple of things about those emotions. Couple of things. Now, there is something called emotional dysregulation, and that's the underpinnings of a lot of problems we see and experience, that the emotions become literally dysregulated. Now, there's a lot of ways to recalibrate, given the fact that we live in the Western Hemisphere and we use Western medicine. Most people start and use medication, because there is medication that helps regulate. There's other ways you can regulate these emotions, and that's through a practice of meditation, a practice of yoga. Boy, if you could find a yoga teacher who can work with the disabled, would be great. So yoga, meditation, and the other thing I would like you to do is to be able to not override the emotion, but be bigger. See if you can become a container for the emotions. Here's what I mean. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, son, was dying of cancer. My friend's about my age, around 60, 65. The son was 40. His wife had moved out a couple of years earlier, and now he was diagnosed with this terminal illness. My friend was furious at the injustice, and this guy was comfortable with his anger, and he railed at whoever would listen. He was furious at the injustice. Who could argue with him? On the other hand, he was telling me, he was so deeply touched by the outpouring of love. His wife had moved back into the house, had remarried him, and cared for him for the rest of his life. The outpouring of love for him and for them, he said, was amazing. And I said, all right, so I understand both feelings. Of course, you're going to be angry. You're going to feel grateful for this. And he said, but you don't understand, Dan. He says, my mind, it just goes back and forth and back and forth. My emotions just race from one to the other. I'm exhausted and I feel crazy. And I said, well, it sounds like you're holding a flashlight. And the flashlight lights up one, then the other, then the other, then the other. And he said, that's exactly what it's like. One lights up and then the other lights up. But it goes back and forth so quickly. And I said, Ed, his name was Ed, I said, who's holding the flashlight? And I got that confused look I like to get. Who's holding the flashlight? That's the bigger mind. That's the bigger mind. Can you hold all of these emotions at the same time? And with a kind eye, say, this is what I'm feeling. I'm suffering right now. I'm angry right now. I'm scared right now. I'm quiet right now. Can you hold all of this in these big, caring arms of your mind? You don't have to like it. Nobody likes it. It's exactly the same as pain. All pain is the same. The pain of anger, the pain of fear, the pain of ostracism, or neuropathic pain. They all light up in the same part of the brain. And coping is the same for all of them. Hold them. Hold pain gently and lovingly. And that doesn't mean not doing anything about it. But it does mean accepting this moment that you're in and not fighting with it. I really don't want to minimize the suffering that goes with these unstable emotions. But see if you can hold them. And if you can get into a relationship, a therapeutic relationship, you might also want to explore what's underneath them. You know, when my mind, when anybody's mind starts to race back and forth, there's something underneath it. There's emotions underneath it that are driving it. And I wonder if there are emotions that are even underneath all this volatility that you're having trouble facing or holding. I'm just guessing here, of course. I have no idea. So,
and a couple people have called in, so we might want to give them a shot.
Okay.
If those of you who have called in, if you just hit 66, that'll unmute you, and then just say hello, and we'll... There's somebody unmuted. Go ahead, speak.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello? I hear a radio in the background. I know it's not my show.
So all you have to do is hit 66 and be unmuted, and then say hello.
Is that Ida? I know Ida was trying to call in. No, I don't hear that phone anymore. I don't hear that phone anymore.
66 will unmute you. 63 will mute you.
So,
okay.
now that I...
Dr. Dan?
There we go.
Yeah.
This is Laurie.
Hi, Laurie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good today.
Good.
How about you?
I'm okay. I just sent a post there. It sounds like a lot to hold. But then you
Yeah.
made the comment about, you understand, and I thank you for that compassion, but every day it seems, really good days and then not so much. And so it's really hard to kind of get that even kind of emotion.
Yeah. So what are days that are good and what are days that are not so good?
The really good days are, I live in like assisted living, and the really good days are when, the CNAs come in and get you up and stuff, and it's just kind of a good, everything goes right. Those are better days, but
So wait a minute. So that's what's happening on the outside. So on good days, what does it feel like to be Laurie?
I don't think there are good days. I haven't. I've said before.
What were the days that you said were okay?
On days where things go well, like as far as my personal cares and
Yeah. So what are those days like for you?
I feel okay. I think emotionally that's as good as it gets. Like,
so what
it's
are
an
the
okay day.
What are the emotions you feel on those days when everything's going smoothly? What do you feel? What's it like to be you those days?
I'm still like frustrated, upset, but it's kind of like it's held back, and the opposite of those is the days where things don't go right. Maybe a new girl is working, or you get bad news or whatever, and it's those days where I just feel kind of like bipolar, or
Oh, well, don't go so fast, my dear.
yeah,
Those days you feel what?
this, like I just want to scream, I'm not sure how to. Like I've said before, I'm still new. I've only been in my chair a year and a half. So, and I'm in a facility, which I think is hard.
Enough what?
That living here, a lot of people, and that's, a lot of people live at home. Their parents take care of them or spouse. But I live it. It's called the CBRF. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's a community-based residential facility. So it's like kind of like a big dormitory, like a big apartment, like community.
And where were you living before all this happened?
I rented a small house. I was single. I had 3 cats. Then I worked full time, and
so you had a life. You had a regular life.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because it was probably half a mile from here, and so it's just like up the road. So
your life turned around 180 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm unfortunately I'm not at that, like, probably good role model. I'm not at that point where I, still kind of struggling to find some sort of normalcy.
Yeah. So, first of all, I don't know how others are going to feel about this, but you are suffering, and I think it's unreasonable to expect yourself to feel differently than you do. I remember our last conversation that moved me so deeply. That you're pretty isolated there, huh?
Pretty much.
Have you made any relationships there that feel good?
There's a few people that I talk with on a daily basis, but not like friendships, no.
Are these people you feel good about?
They're nice, yeah. I mean, they're, but I think I've said before the age differences, so, I'm 40, and, most of the people here are, 70-ish, 80. So it's kind of hard to, become an interest or...
Okay. So that's the issue here. I mean, that's a large part of the issue. Yeah. Is you're so isolated there.
I wish...
Go on.
Well, I was just going to say that why this website has been so nice because, there are people more my age that have, that are on the website.
Yeah, and kindred spirits. So let me ask you this. What's this like for you right now, having this conversation? What's it feel like to you?
It's nice. It feels safe.
Yeah.
And I don't know you, but I feel I can trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something you don't have much of, feeling of safety?
Well, I think part of that problem is the wheelchair. You kind of have that stuck feeling. For me, anyway, I'm, full care. I don't really have any, like upper body strength to be able to move about easily. So I'm still, at the hand. Somebody else has to take care of me.
Yeah.
So when the lights go out at night, I'm stuck.
What at night?
When the lights go out at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
So.
I know that feeling. It's pretty frightening.
Yes, it is.
So you said you feel safe right now.
Talking to you.
Yeah. And you feel cared about?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, even though I don't know you, I feel like we have, things in common.
Right.
Unfortunately, but, and that makes me feel safe and like I can trust you.
Okay.
And
you feel that I care about you, yes?
Right.
Okay. We've got some 8 or 9 people who are listening to us right now. Do you feel that they care about you also?
I think that they're probably looking for what I am possibly to just, be able to talk with people that are dealing with same issues and
So how are you feeling about them, those invisible people who are listening right now?
You couldn't just, I'm on the phone right now, kind of private, so.
I didn't hear you.
10 minutes? 10
Yeah.
15 minutes, I'll be back.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's.
So how do you feel towards the people who are listening to us right now?
Well, like I said, they're probably looking for what I'm looking for. It would be nice if, more people spoke up and asked you, or, when they are.
Let me press you here. Okay? So, I don't want to know what you think about them. I want to know how you feel towards them.
How do I feel towards them?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know any of them. It would be nice to, hear what they have to say and how they deal with paralysis, or, if they're dealing with it or a family member.
Well, here's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
These feelings that you have right now,
Yeah.
the feeling of safety and trust, the feeling of gratitude that you talked about,
Right.
the fact that you are open right now and allowing yourself to feel cared for,
Right.
none of those feelings are coming from me. All of those feelings are inside of you. They live there. They live there all the time. And the issue with us, we humans, is that we have difficulty accessing those feelings.
Right.
The
But
trust, the safety I want for you, I don't know if you're going to feel it physically in a wheelchair. I mean, when I'm out in my wheelchair, I don't feel safe. I think that would be destructive of me to feel safe. I'm always vigilant about what could happen.
Really?
Well, I mean, I've had some accidents. I mean, you're a rookie. I've been doing the wheelchair thing for 30 years.
Yeah.
So this sense of safety is in you, and the sense of safety I wish for you is almost an act of faith. Faith that it's in there. Faith that something deep inside of you is wise, is love, is kind, is connected, and that thing inside of you will be with you every moment for the rest of your life. Sharmi is from India, and in India they say when they encounter people, namaste. You might have heard that, but it's I bow to the God within you. Regardless of your religious beliefs, and what that says is, I bow to what something in you that I know is divine, is love, is special. And not only do I believe it, but I know it based on the research. We know.
You're the outlet that allows me to express those feelings. And, all of us thank you for that.
Well, I have to tell you, Lois just sent a message to you. I don't know if you can read it.
No.
She said She said, Laurie is very brave, and I am sending her a big hug.
Aw, how sweet.
So, do you want to say anything back to Lois?
Just thank you so much, and I hope she feels free to talk with you also.
Hey,
Thank you.
You know what? Lois could probably use a hug too.
Okay, big hugs.
All right, thank you. Thanks for calling. It's nice hanging out with you, Laurie.
Thank
I wish
you.
I could give you a literal hug.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Take care of you. I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. So, I think that we are just about out of time unless somebody wants to comment about the time we've spent together or has an issue they want to touch on. But if not, then I guess we will say goodbye. And Rob, we're going to do the first Monday of February.
Now that the holiday is over, yes, we're going back to the first Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll do it again, and that will be February 6th.
February 6th. And you know what? I'll come up with something we can talk about, but I'm thinking it doesn't matter all that much. Because we wind up talking about whatever we want and need to talk about anyway.
Seems that way, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, we'll get something to get us started. All right, my dear friends. I guess that's it. I asked Laurie how she felt about all those people listening in. I guess I should say how I feel about all those people listening in. I feel close to them. We feel like kindred spirits. I feel honored that they would want to join me for this hour. I feel grateful. And I want you to say that you're all getting on my nerves because you didn't call in, you're not contributing, and you just added to my anxiety and insecurity. So there. All right. Like I said, I'm going to go pout. Thanks, everybody.
Nice work. And everybody remember that if you go to christopherreeve.org/webcast, you can listen to this one as soon as I get it up sometime tomorrow, and all the past ones that we've done in other webcasts in other categories. So it's christopherreeve.org/webcast with an S at the end of it. And the other thing is we've talked about there is an online community that Dr. Dan appears in, and that is at christopherreeve.org/community, and he is in the discussion section. So christopherreeve.org/community. And you can leave messages for, and also chat with other people, make some friends while you're there. So thank you all for joining us, and we will do it again the first Wednesday of February 6th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for joining us.